You're listening to the Amiamanyet podcast, a conversation about rediscovering modern masculinity. Hey, welcome back to episode 4 of the Amiamanyet podcast. I'm Adam.
I'm Max.
And we are excited to be back. Had a little bit of a break with Thanksgiving, but we're back at it. And I just wanted to give a shout out to a few people. Tim Martin gave us a very generous 5-star review on Facebook, and we are thrilled. It was very generous of you, and so we're thankful for that.
And then David Snodgrass has been following along with us since the beginning. And he's like our Twitter aficionado.
Yeah,
I think so he keeps us really as present as we can be there because he's there and is talking about us now and then. So thank you for keeping us into the Twitter sphere.
Yep. And anyone else, just that if you've been consistent interacting with us, even asking for new episodes, it makes us feel like we're putting out something that you guys are wanting. So, we're doing is just hosting a conversation, and we want you guys to join in on it. And so we're thankful for you guys making this even just something that we feel like is meeting a need of some sort. So also, if you we mailed out some stickers to a few of you that had mentioned us on Instagram. If you give us a follow on Instagram, if you get a friend to follow us on Instagram, we will send you guys a amiamanyet sticker, and so we'll reach out to you guys to get that. So just make sure you guys can follow us, get others to follow us, get the word out about us, and we would appreciate it, and we would love to give you a sticker because of that.
It's been a while since we've been on. Like we said, the holidays always kind of do that. Travel, families in town, stuff like that. But we're back. We're excited to be back. And we wanted to begin to tackle because I think the topic of today is it's pretty big. And it'd be hard to cover in 20 minutes. But again, this is just a conversation starter. We're not trying to really, cover it. So, but we want to look at mental health and what role masculinity or the uncertainty of masculinity plays into mental health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have an article that we had looked off of, but honestly, we'll mention. We're going to look over the article a little bit and respond to it. I mentioned to Max earlier that honestly, we don't need an article to respond to mental health because I think we all have our own story with it to some extent. That it's either been present in your family, you have friends, or you yourself have gone through just a little, just a crisis in your own mental health. And so, we're just going to take this episode to respond to it because it's so prevalent, it's so relevant into where we're at and why is that the case. We don't have the answer for it. We're not ready to bottom line you with it, but it's like, there is something going on in our mental state, and why is that? Is masculinity or the pressures of masculinity affecting us? Yeah,
or at least what part does that play? Because masculinity, I think the article says this, is perceived, and that's, that. And that's probably why it's kind of hard to nail it down too. What is masculinity? And so I think perception, so then therefore perception of masculinity is going to affect your mental health, right? The way you see yourself, whether you see yourself as masculine and then you lose it because of something, or because you see yourself as not masculine, so you're struggling with that. So I think a gender identity and masculinity goes along with that, plays into mental health pretty heavily.
Yeah. Before we go any further, though, let's go ahead and just say the article itself is from Matters of the Mind, a look at millennials and mental health, and the title of the article is Confronting the Wall of Masculinity in Mental Health. kind of the subtitle, Why Men Are Less Likely to Speak Up About Mental Health in the U.S. I don't know, Max, your initial thoughts about why do men speak up less when it comes to mental health?
Because, if you're a masculine, if you're a man, you are the provider, you are the protector, and so it's really hard to provide and protect. The thought is, right, I'm not saying this is how it really is. It's really hard to provide and protect if you don't even have your own mind right.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't, so you have to hide that. You have to not let people know that you're having any kind of self-doubt or mental issues whatsoever, because then you may not be seen as a man, or you may not see yourself as a man, probably more importantly.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest reason is that because our current or the past, whatever definitions or the way we think of masculinity is that provider, that protector, and so that, I think that is what puts that wall up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a wall.
Yeah.
And the way that we think that we ought to be as men, somehow we've painted this view that if you define yourself as a man, that not seeing yourself correctly or accurately or just skewed in some way, you've automatically pegged yourself as weak. That I'm not firing at all cylinders right now. I'm not working properly, and therefore if I were to see a shrink, for what would be a common term, if I were to see a shrink, then I can't fix myself.
Right.
And I think as men we want that. We want to fix ourselves. We want to know the way out, and just it's not that simple,
No, the mental health, people have brought this up before, it's paradoxical because, as you were saying, I'm thinking like sports, right? Like you pull your hamstring, men don't necessarily want to try and fix their hamstring themselves.
Right.
Like I guess I can see that both ways. They get help to get it fixed, in that sports field, in that silo of their life. They look for help to feel better. But it's like I guess since like your brain and your mind, which is not even necessarily the same thing, since you can't see it, it's not tangible. It's harder to ask for help. Which I know that's like a common. I've heard a lot of in interviews other healthcare people bring that point up too. Yeah, but I can also think too, like I don't know, like you get a different injury, like I'm thinking like blue collar workers, like they fall off the ladder, or they shoot themselves with the nail gun or whatever, like, and it's like a point of pride to not go to the hospital,
right,
and get that looked at,
right,
like, and so like then like their hand is like the size of like the thigh, and like
they
everything.
Lockjaw because they have tetanus now,
right? But I worked construction after high school for a few years, and like that was definitely like like. It seemed like that was a thing, like that if you got hurt or something like that, you keep it, you just, I don't know, take care of it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, because like now it gets like all over, because like maybe that has nothing really to do with masculinity and pride, or maybe the pride is not that you're hurt and you need help, but the pride is that you don't have the money or insurance to get help.
Right.
That could play into it too. I just don't know. But
yeah, and it's one like I can't get this fixed right now, this injury, but also the part of that too is like, well, I can't afford it because I have to provide in other ways.
Right.
It's just that provider, protector kicking in.
Yep.
That I can't just go and get this fixed right now,
right.
because it's
right. Then I'll be out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just to reference the article right in the very beginning of it, it kind of throws out a statistic that I thought was kind of interesting. It said that the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention says that almost 78% of deaths by suicide were completed by men. That was in 2013, which seemed... I'm trying to just think my own reaction if I'm surprised by that, if I'm not surprised by that. Like, that is a high number. If of all the suicides in 2013, like 78% were men. Why is that? Like, that's the question. I mean, the article goes back to and says it's just a reluctance of seeking help.
Right.
We just don't.
Yeah. Yep.
Which we kind of just hit on, was that we just don't seek help. And
so I think what will be interesting, and another piece of this article that jumped out at me was who it's geared towards. And so being geared towards millennials, and the way that you said this earlier, the way that, you know, society is moving forward, more and more things are becoming acceptable. And so, but at the same time, like that, and that's where this whole conversation started around, was like masculinity is not necessarily getting an update as to what it looks like. And so I think that poll is still driving a lot of these mental problems too. Like, how does your brain reconcile that, this is what I've been told or grew up thinking as what a man is, but now I'm in this society who, if I do those things, I'm, reprimanded by society or outcast by society. So I think it'll be interesting, going forward to see how millennials and whatever other generation there is, how they start to change some of this. Because, I think that's really who it's going to be on, as millennials do start to have kids, what narrative of masculinity are they going to give their boys and girls? And, what narrative of feminism are they going to give their boys and girls? I think that's where we're going to see the change. Like, we're kind of caught in the change right now. And so it'll be interesting to, as time ticks on, to see if we see a change or... if it's just so ingrained in media and stuff that, your parent tells you one thing, but you still feel this other way because society is this, like, huge, silent force that makes you think things. Right.
Yeah, and I think we're just so early in the game that we've yet to see the actual results of it yet. I mean, what we are seeing, though, is not good with the numbers that we're seeing of mental illness. I'm saying illness, but like our mental health state's not good.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Just to share a little bit of, my own story is, I've had my season. Just I guess I'm saying just to build a little bit of credibility too. Like, I've had my seasons of depression and mental illness, and it's been directly immediate in my immediate family too, that I've seen it in different circles, and one being myself, and did spend time with the counselor and saw the value in that. So I'm very, very much pro seeking help, and I sought help through a therapist, and that was something that was reluctant to at first. I think whenever I was even sitting in the chair talking to the therapist, I was even like trying to see where this guy's heading. All right, where are you getting at? Like, I'm fine. I think that's what I was trying to be, a step ahead, diagnose myself.
Right.
While I'm even in the therapist chair. But then there was just moments where it was like, I know, I've heard people say what you're saying to me 1,000 times. But today it's starting to resonate. Like, today I'm really believing that.
Right.
And so it was, I think it's, it took some humility on my part to really open up my eyes, even though I may have heard that saying 1,000 times, like, okay, I need help first off. What else do I have?
Right.
And it was that moment where...
Well, and I think that's an important part too, the normalization of therapy, because that comes with its own stigmas.
Yeah.
I've never have, but not because I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, I too go through seasons. I think everybody does, right? Like, kind of your peaks and valleys, your ebbs and flows, and obviously some people, valleys are deeper than others, and at times in your lives and life and stuff like that. But I do see the importance of normalizing mental health, like, and seeing therapists, and that like that just needs to be something that, you know, shouldn't be a big admission. Like, if you were saying like, oh, I went to the doctor and had my physical, like, you know what I mean? It's not like, and maybe you don't feel hesitant. It seemed like you're a little like hesitant. Other people tend to be kind of hesitant, I feel like, if they're going to bring up that they're seeing a therapist. And I think that starting to normalize that, which that's what you just did by saying that you do that and you've done that. So I think that is a really important piece to changing the narrative. I mean, that's what you're doing there, is you're changing the narrative of masculinity by saying, I sought help and it helped.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it's not like you don't go all the time now or something, right? Like, it's like you said, it's a season. It helps you get through a season. And
and there's a lot of student pastors in my age range that seek counseling. It's something that I would like to start doing. Like, they go to their therapist even when they're okay. You know, like, well, you know, I'm not going to go to the doctor if I'm not sick, but sometimes that was just kind of a part of their rhythm, was like, they don't go every Friday, you know, but it was like, there's, you know, I know that whenever fall starts to wind down, I know that I need to, you know, just go ahead and make this, even if I feel like I'm okay, feel like I can trudge through this.
Well, it's preventative, which we like. That's a huge part of the other rest of the body's medical care. Like, I mean, but yeah, just having it become more normalized, would help a lot. So, and I've heard, you know, I don't know, I've heard people like, I feel like I've had friends who went to the therapist, and then like afterwards, like, everybody just needs to do that. Yeah. Like, it's not, you know, it's not dark and scary or anything like that. Like, it just, like, just having someone to talk to. But like I said, I've never done it, so I don't know. So I don't really have a lot of pull off of that.
I call my therapist my paid friend. You're only here because I'm paying you, but you know, it is helpful. It's not, and the thing is like, it's not just a 30-minute session. All right, we good? All right, I'm out. Right. It is, you know, it's a process. It does take time, and I think sometimes our culture is very much hurried. Sure. You know, express lane.
Convenience, like,
go ahead and write the prescription. You know, and I think sometimes, you know, that opens up a whole new can of worms of mental health and medication and people. And just because I'm a pastor, there's a lot of people that think, well, if you're taking medicine, you don't need to be doing that for depression. But, you know, we have doctors and medicine that helps with chemical imbalances, and people just think in my circle, oh, you just need to pray more. Right. Like, well, don't ever take Pepto when you have diarrhea again, then, because you just need to pray more. Right. You know, like, it just doesn't work. That does not work for everybody. And there are cures for, you know, sometimes that there are cases where medicine is needed, and, you know, it's just not normalized yet. Nope, you know? It's not. You're looked down on for even having to take antidepressants, maybe. Right. I think some people feel like, I can't tell people that I take a Xanax every day. You know, like, we can't normalize that, or they don't feel comfortable yet saying that. Right. But what's it going to take for us to get to the point where we can be okay?
Right. That is just another, like, it's just another piece of your healthcare. Like, you go to the dentist, you get your eyes checked, you get your ears checked. You know what I mean? Like, you do all these other parts, like, other than your general practitioner. So, like, that should just be another, it's just another part of yourself that needs to be kept up. So as you were talking, I started thinking too, like, that, you know, why millennials and society is getting more accepting, and as like that's happening, our mental state is getting worse. Like, it makes me think of two things. Like, is our mental state really getting worse, right? Or is it just okay to talk about it now?
Right.
So now everyone's like, everyone's messed up. Well, everyone's always been messed up.
Right.
When they just kept it inside.
Maybe we're just a little more aware.
Yeah. And so I think that's an important piece. Like, is it... so I used to teach military history, and that was kind of a thing that came up, like, where did PTSD come from? Mm-hmm. Soldiers have PTSD, but they didn't have PTSD. This is something that students would tell me. They didn't have PTSD after World War II, like that was, or World War I, or like, this stuff. And so I was like, well, I said, they probably did, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't something that was diagnosed, and it wasn't something that they sought help for. Mm-hmm. And, they found help through self-medicating with drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Like, that's what it...
Yeah, who was recording the stats on those long nights?
Right.
No one was, so...
Yeah, and then everyone thought they were alone, because no one was sharing. So, like, they were the weird one that was affected by it. And so they would, you just drink enough that you just passed out. Yeah. And you weren't really conscious, and stuff like that. And so I think that's the thing, that it's just okay to be open, more okay. And so, like, again, it's just like this, being okay with being open and understanding that, like, things are a mess sometimes. Yeah. And maybe mess is normal. Mm-hmm. I don't really know. Yeah.
Well, just to bring in social media to the table now, is that we don't post our messes. We're very much a filtered. I posted an Instagram story today, and I'm embarrassed by how many times I tried again because I stuttered, or something that was like, we just do that in social media. Like, we don't want to post our mess ups. We don't want to post the messes. We want everything to look okay, appear normal, whatever that is. And social media is really heightened to just comparison, like, live up to my standard. Right. Here's my highlight reel, but we know us, and so we feel like we're the blooper reel, and then everyone else is a highlight reel, and I'm never going to get there. Right. And it's the only way to get there is through filter, or perception. So
yeah, I think that's definitely started to play a role, and maybe some of that state. Mm-hmm. I think too, with that, you get relationships are way more shallow, I feel like, than, well, I mean, I don't know, because I didn't know what old relationships were like. Yeah. But, like, I go to Hy-Vee some mornings, and there's, like, all these old guys sitting around drinking coffee. Mm-hmm. And, like, I think they're there, like, every day. Yeah. Or, like, at least every Thursday or whatever day they come to meet. And, like, I see them, I think, are they gonna, like, are younger generations gonna do that?
Yeah.
Is that like something that is gonna go away? Because I feel like, and maybe I don't know their relationships. Just because you meet for coffee doesn't mean you have a deep relationship by any means. But so many relationships are just so shallow, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, especially for men. And part of that is that wall, not wanting to ask for help or let another man know that, I am in a season of not goodness, like depression or whatever it is. I don't think it has to be like terrible, but just like, man, like things aren't great.
Yeah.
Right now. To do that, to say that, I don't think men have that. I think I've brought this up again in the other episodes. That just doesn't, I feel like that just doesn't exist. Like, I had this aha moment. Like, I started thinking about, like, people that I'm friends with. I'm like, man, I really don't know that person. Yeah. And, like, we hang out and we talk and we do things together, and I would definitely help them out if they needed it. Like, we're friends and stuff, but like, it's still a very, like, shallow relationship. Like, if they were, like, in real, like, if they ran out of gas, they'll call me and I'll go help them out, right? But if they're struggling with, like, something with life, they don't reach out. Yeah. So, maybe that says more about me than everyone else. I don't know.
No, I think you're hitting something. I think And I think what we're hitting at, I think we're all kind of wired for community.
Right.
Like real community.
Yeah.
You know, like, man, I want that. I'll call them a 2 a.m. friend. Like, I could call this person up at 2 a.m. with an emergency and they wouldn't blink twice about it. Like, I want that kind of friend in my life, that we're that close. We know, or I feel okay with sharing. I'm just not in a good season right now.
Right.
Like, I'm just not doing okay.
Right. They know you're ugly.
Yeah.
Right. Coming back to that social media thing, like, it's all like connected, but like even when you're not on the phone or in that social media, it's like you just don't share that part, you know. And I don't know. For me, because I've been thinking a lot about it, because when I had that at home, I was like, oh my goodness, like everything's fake.
Yeah.
You know, but I think part of it was for me, like I don't know why I didn't. I didn't define a relationship that way. Like that was like my relationships were fine. I had lots of friends, you know, and I would like go, like I said, if something happened at 2 a.m., I'd probably, without a doubt, go help those people. But again, that's even still different than if they to let me in on something that is more, you know, not so tangibly fixable, right?
Yeah.
Like this is just so. So I don't know. I don't know, but it comes back to that community, you know. Like that's I've been looking for more of that, like just trying to find more community. And I think the hardest part about it is that you have to be the first one to open up. Like you have to be the first one to put some vulnerability out there to show that it's okay and that you're going to also be open to their vulnerabilities. I mean, the TED Talk, I think that's kind of what he ended up doing. Like he went on his guys trip, and on the last day and like the last hour, he finally was like, oh, so this is what I'm thinking, guys. And like they're all cool with it. And I think so, but that is still really hard to do, to be vulnerable, and to be the first one, right? Like if I feel like if someone else was vulnerable with me, like, oh yeah, me totally feel the same way, man. Like, and it would be fine. But for now that I'm aware of it, I feel that, you know, I'm looking like for opportunities, which is kind of weird. But like I'm looking for opportunities to like to and I don't want to, not on social media. And if you do that on social media, that's fine. But that's just not for me. Like I want it to be. I want that sense of community. Like I want to be that old guy who goes on Thursdays and sits there and drinks coffee, and you know, maybe most of our conversations still revolve around sports and shallow topics, but everyone at that table knows that that's, you know, that they're there for each other on a deeper level than a flat tire or something like that. Yeah.
Well, I think what you just want to be truly known.
Right.
You know, like I want people, we don't have to talk about the nitty gritty every time we're together, but you know me and I know you.
Right.
And at any moment I could ask you, hey, how are things? And you wouldn't feel like I'm intruding, you know, like it's just like I've already welcomed you into this space of my life, and I want you to hold me to that.
Right. And I wouldn't feel, you know, you get that question and the shallow answer is, oh, great, that's all good, living the dream.
Yeah.
You know, like okay, you know, and so, but not feeling the pressure to give that answer either. Yeah. Knowing that this is a relationship that can withstand whatever's truly in there.
Yeah, we've just my own circle. It's you hold on to those friends too, the ones that do randomly text you and say, hey, been thinking about you, you know, everything good?
And I suck at that.
Yeah, well, it's like, not normal.
I'm terrible. No, there's some people who are really, like, we have some friends that are really good at it. Like, they're probably the main reason, like, we're still friends is because they are good at it. Because I'm terrible. And I don't know. And again, that's like something else I've been trying to work on now that I know that I'm terrible at it, to be better about, you know, because I'll get that thought in my head, right? Like, oh, so-and-so, I should text them. And then, like, old me just didn't. Yeah. You know, like, I don't know. They're probably busy.
Yeah, I don't want to be weird.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be clingy.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been 5 years. Is that too soon?
Yeah.
So, but now I'm trying to, you know, no, like, it's okay. Like, you know, to do that, to be better about keeping those relationships. alive over time and space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard. That's a hard one for me.
Yeah.
Has been my whole life. Like,
yeah, I definitely think it's for most of us.
Yeah.
Like, it's not normal. And I think what we're driving at is that your mental health, it's not the case all the time, because some people just make your blood boil. Like, right. But there are I think all of us, our mental health, for the most part, again, is struggles when we feel alone.
Yeah. Like
when we really do feel like I truly am alone in this, or no, I'm just by myself. Our mental health is at stake whenever because then we start to believe it, and I think that's why suicide is such a speed dial option.
Right.
Like, why am I even here? Because no one else cares. I'm alone. No one even cares if I'm gone. Like, I think that feeling alone is such a huge throbbing idea in our minds that we just can't shake sometimes.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think, 100%. So I'm so I've recently, like, you're a pastor, but I've just recently started going back to church. And I feel like that, like, is that like a saying, or is that something like, that's like that Satan's like greatest trick is like make you feel like you're alone or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
No,
but it's like wrong, it just makes me like, that's just, as you were talking, I was like, oh, that's like, I think I just heard someone else talking about that. So
yeah, I think in our I'm talking in a Christian perspective. I think Satan wants us to believe that you're alone.
Right.
Like, you are the only one struggling with this.
Right.
Don't you dare say a word to anybody, because they're going to think you're a freak, and it'll just feed you with those lies. And it's like, we need to keep in the forefront of our mind what's actually true.
Right.
I know I'm not alone. Okay. I know this because I have people in my life. I know I have the Bible that I look to. I have God's word that's going to tell me what I know. And so, we should keep in the forefront of our mind what I know is actually true.
Right.
And not believe the lie that you are isolated. You are on an island in this.
Yeah. I think that's where that community, why that community is so important to have.
Yeah.
Because you have to have different people in that community too.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I was reading another article, or maybe it was in this one or something, but it was talking about something how, what was it? Something like how you can't necessarily go to your spouse for everything. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, kind of like in that same, and like that's what those old guys at the coffee table, right? Like, their wives aren't with them.
Right.
Right. And wives go do other things.
Right.
And like, you need different people in your life. But again, I think like that convenience, that Walmart mentality, like I can get everything at one stop, has maybe kind of started to like leach into even like that relationship. Like, my spouse should be my everything. Right. Like, literally, like, they should be my therapist and my cheerleader and my everything. Like, they should always be there for you, but you need different people. Yeah. They're not going to relate with everything that you've done or had in your life and stuff. And so, I think that sense of community, and true community, not one other person, is really important. Yeah.
Well, I think your spouse can fill those needs at some point. At some point, they will muster up the strength to be something they may not be comfortable in. But yeah, for sure, they weren't designed to fulfill every need of yours.
Right. That's exactly it.
I will fail. Right. I am not good at this.
Right. And they always are going to care and love you and can be there for you, but they're not necessarily going to be able to do it. Like, all the time at the level that you may need in a really low season. Yeah. Right. Or and vice versa. Like, you can't necessarily always be their only source of refuge or whatever it is. Like, there has to be other sources for both of you, on both sides all the time, so and I think that's something that from my perspective is lacks a lot. Maybe not a lot, is lacking today. And so all right, this was a big one.
I see a part 2 coming at some point. Not that it necessarily needs to be the very next one that we do, but
like,
conversation is so young.
Yeah, and I think too,
ongoing.
Like getting it again, like you said, this is one that's more relatable, or more, people have dealt with in some ways, and so hopefully, my hope is that we'll get some reaction that then we can react to, converse on. We'll get some conversation coming in to think about, for us to think about, and then respond to and talk and keep this alive. So I think definitely a part 2 would be something.
Yeah,
that we need to explore.
Just for anyone that they themselves feel like they're alone, like you don't feel like the world is better because you're in it, if you're just at a point where you're at wit's end with whatever, we're going to provide some helpful links in the show notes, but you can always reach out to us. We may or may not know you, but we know that the room is better when you're in it, wherever you're at, and we want you to get better. If you're just in a state of, I'm just not okay right now, that's okay. Yeah. It's okay to not be okay. I've been there myself. I would love to talk to you. Same with Max. If you just want to email us at amiamanyet@gmail.com. Reach out to us, DM on social media, whatever the case. I don't care. We would love to talk to you, though, and point you in the right direction that we would need to.
100%. Yeah.
So, thanks for joining us on this episode of Am I a Man Yet? Let's just continue the conversation. And so you can follow us on social media at amiamanyet on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can even email us at amiamanyet@gmail.com. And don't forget to share this, rate it with your friends, and just to rate it on iTunes. That helps us out a ton. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Okay. I promise we will.
You're going to get some shots.
Oh, no. Okay.
What's Mom doing? I'm just...
I feel fine.
She said, hey, come here.
That happened at a good time.
Yeah, it's a good time.
We should totally edit this to the very end of the episode.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah.